Shout out to Manscaped, as today's show is presented by Manscaped. They've got the best men's grooming products on the planet. If you want to take advantage of them for 20% off and get free shipping, head over to manscaped.com and use promo code Chiefs. They've got the Lawnmower 4.0, the Ultra Premium Collection, two products that I highly recommend and use constantly. So check that link out in the comments and in the description. Promo code Chiefs for all you members of Chiefs Kingdom, get you 20% off at checkout. All right before we went live, this came down the pipeline from Tom Pelissero. The Texans have traded quarterback Lonnie Johnson to the Kansas City Chiefs, so I want to give him credit. Here are the trade details that later came in. Lonnie Johnson to Kansas City for a 2024 conditional 7th round pick, a.k.a. the Chiefs have given up nothing for a guy who was a second-round pick just a couple of years ago, 3 seasons with the Texans. Last year, it's not like he stunk. 3 picks, 6 pass breakups, 55 tackles. Okay, I mean, conditional 7th for a guy who has spent some time starting in this league. I'm not going to sit here and say this is a plug-and-play starter right away. You don't trade plug-and-play starters for conditional 7th-round picks, but this feels like the Mike Hughes trade last year, which Hughes wasn't great, but he contributed on special teams. As a backup, I would say he was good. When he had to play at corner, he wasn't great, but he at least knew how to play, right? Like, he wasn't a total disaster. Kind of how I view this. I liked him coming out of Kentucky with that frame, 6'2", over 200 pounds. I'm intrigued by this, considering the Chiefs basically got nothing. So what do you think? Do you like the trade to get Lonnie Johnson to the Kansas City Chiefs? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you like this trade for the Chiefs? I think I like it. You basically gave up nothing. Get your votes in down in the comments. Now we'll transition from that trade to the bulk of today's video, which is post-NFL draft free agent targets for the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a great draft for Brett Veach and company, and I think that you feel good about this roster, but there's a couple of areas I think you could add some talent with some of the cap space that you have. I think these are the 3 biggest needs that the Chiefs have post-NFL draft. Defensive tackle, I would like to add another piece there on that unit next to Chris Jones. I like Derek Nottie. I think you could at least get another rotation guy in there. Edge rusher, listen, you draft George Karlaftis, but I think you could use a veteran there as well. And then wide receiver. You have a ton of depth at receiver, but do you want to add a veteran that gives you some insurance if, say, Marquez Valdes-Scantling isn't ready to be a full-time starter, if, Juju Smith-Schuster suffers an injury because he's had injuries in the past. I think that could be on the table as well. What do you think the Chiefs' biggest need is after the draft? I would have included corner maybe, but you drafted Trent McDuffie and you just traded for Lonnie Johnson, so you might be set there. Let us know biggest need for the Chiefs now that the draft is over. All right, let's jump into these 10 post-draft free agent targets. Number 1, Larry Ogunjobi, who verbally agreed to the contract with the Chicago Bears to start free agency, but then he failed the physical, so that contract is null and void, but he's been working out. And listen, he's like kind of just a slightly worse Chris Jones as an interior defensive tackle, pass rush specialist. Had 7 sacks last year, which is a very good number for a defensive tackle. I like him quite a bit. I think you could get him at a relatively cheap price, 5, 6, maybe $7 million for Ogunjobi if that medical situation checks out. If he's cleared and wants to come play for a contender, you put him next to Chris Jones, that would be a whole lot of fun. How about Ndamukong Suh, who is getting up there, but every single year he's on a contender in the NFL. He's a fun player. Sure, people think he's dirty or whatever, but you know what? The guy has 12 sacks in the past 2 years, 6 sacks in 2021, 6 sacks in 2020. Still productive, more of that nose tackle type at this point, so you could line him up right next to Jones. I would be very, very interested in that possibility. Now, shout out to Manscaped for sponsoring today's show because they have the best men's grooming products on the market, and I use a lot of them, especially the Ultra Premium Collection on a daily basis. The shampoo and conditioner bottle, a big part of this, so is the body wash. I just ran out of my body wash in this set, and I've been using it for several months. It lasts you a while. The body spray is a great addition as well, because say you sneak in a quick workout but you don't have time to shower, a couple sprays of that, you're going to be smelling good as new. Deodorant, lip balm, all this stuff comes in this package for only $39.99 if you use our promo code, which is Chiefs, promo code Chiefs at manscaped.com. 20% off plus free shipping. Go check out their products right now. Link in the comments, and it is in the description. One more interior defensive lineman, that would be Akiem Hicks, who has spent the last several years with the Chicago Bears. Listen, I like Akiem Hicks. His numbers with the Bears over the last several years as a defensive tackle in a 3-4 scheme. He'd be coming to a 4-3 here. 31 sacks, 51 tackles for loss, 175 tackles. He's battled some injuries the last couple of years, but he's a locker room leader. Teammates rally around him. Fan bases love him. He's a physical player, man. When healthy, he's still good. Now, he'll miss some games for you, but as your number 2 or number 3 defensive tackle, I still think for a contender, he can be very productive. How about Jadeveon Clowney, who is probably the top overall player remaining in free agency, if we're being completely honest. Had a really nice year for the Browns last year, 9 sacks, 37 tackles. He's been a good run stopper his entire career. The sacks have kind of come and gone, but I thought last year was one of his better seasons in that regard. He's never quite been that number 1 pick type of player, but he's still a damn good football player, and I think a guy that can really help this defensive end position out in Kansas City. If you want to go cheaper at that spot, but a guy that played pretty well for you last year, that would be Melvin Ingram, who came over in the trade after at the end of the trade deadline last year, and really he played pretty damn well, to be completely honest. I thought he was pretty good in the run game, which had not always been his calling card. Didn't get a ton of sacks, but got pretty consistent pressure. You know, if he's a cheap option, I'm still very much interested. Now, what do you think the bigger need is for this Chiefs defensive line? Do you think it's defensive tackle? If so, type DT. If you think it's edge, type edge, and get your votes in the comments. I think either way, I would like to get 1 or 2 more pieces on this defensive line, and then I would feel a lot better. Now, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, because we're plugging out videos every single day, sometimes multiple videos per day, as I put out this video earlier this morning. Go watch it if you haven't already. My breakdown, my analysis of the signing of Justin Ross as an undrafted free agent, how I think he could fit into this football team. Check that video. Go check out my Chiefs draft grades. Plus, also did a video on the other UDFAs the Chiefs had signed prior to Justin Ross. YouTube.com/ChiefsTV. That's the link to share with a friend. But if you're watching right now, which you are, hit that sub button, and we'll have you covered on a daily basis. All right, 5 more players to break down here, some potential post-draft free agent targets. How about Julio Jones, who still remains available after getting cut by the Titans before free agency began. Now, injuries have certainly piled up for Julio in recent years. He hasn't played a full season in 2, 3, 4 years, but I still think he's a good player when healthy. He's probably lost half a step. But, again, any receiver you bring him in here, you don't need him to be a 1,300-yard player. Could you come in even as a rotation guy and give some good snaps and add to this depth? I kind of view this wide receiver room as more of a depth position now than a, hey, Tyreek and Kelsey are going to get all the targets, and then we'll see who else contributes. I think that the ball is going to be more spread around this season. Jarvis Landry is a guy who could certainly give you 50 or 60 catches, I think, out of the slot. He's still looking for a big contract, but if that market has dried up a bit, which you would have to think it has at this point in free agency, he's a guy I would also have interested in at the wide receiver position. Now, if you had to pick one of these guys, who you rocking with? Type J for Julio Jones, type L for Jarvis Landry. I might gamble on Julio because Landry's best out of the slot, and I think Smith-Schuster will play there a lot, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't sign Landry. Either one is fine. Julio's probably going to be cheaper, so I would type J for Julio Jones. Listen, I still think running back is a position you could add a player. I get it, Derek Gore's back. You got Ronald Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You drafted Isaiah Pacheco late in the draft. But if Darrel Williams or Jerick McKinnon want to come back on a 1-year deal, compete for snaps, guys, Darrel Williams had over 1,000 all-purpose yards last year. I am stunned that no one has picked him up. He showed his worth as a receiver. Remember when he mossed the Raiders safety last year, who I'm drawing a blank on, Jonathan Abram, just completely mossed him. He had a great season a year ago. Now, I'm not saying he's an elite back, but he knows the system. He played well. I thought Jerick McKinnon by the end of the year was this team's best running back. KC could definitely add another back. That is very much on the table. Do not be shocked if that happens. Now, look, if they want to give Derek Gore more opportunities, this team's third back, sure, that's fine. But are we just sold on Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Ronald Jones as a 1-2 punch? I mean, I like Rojo. CEH has had his moments, but I would bring back McKinnon or Williams, absolutely. And then lastly, Darrel Williams. I wanted to throw one offensive lineman in there because we're not really sure when Lucas Niang is going to come back. I think a fully healthy Niang would still be your best option at right tackle, but as much as I like him coming out of my alma mater TCU, it's not like he's a star. I think he's an above-average tackle, but he's obviously been banged up a lot. Darrel Williams has guard tackle flexibility. I think he could start at right tackle for this team. They drafted Darian Kennard, who could play tackle or guard. Maybe he'd be in the mix there, but Darrel Williams can be a starter at right tackle. He could complete this starting unit, so I think he could be someone worth exploring. All right, there you go. And those are my top 10 free agent targets. This is your time to weigh in for the final time on this segment. Name a free agent that you think the Chiefs should go out and sign. I want to know from you guys in the comments. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at HGramNFL. Still catching up on some DMs after the draft, but if you want to slide in my DMs, ask me a question about the Chiefs or the NFL or really anything else, I'm an open book. Feel free to do so. I'm always tweeting out about the NFL, so if you want those updates, another reason to follow me as well. At HGramNFL, give me a follow, and I would greatly appreciate it.